check marks.
Middle class.
Middle class. So what this says is that we're in the middle class, and a lot of the times the socio-economic class that we're in, we think that everybody knows the hidden rules of our class. It's the same thing for our students that are in poverty. They feel that their hidden rules, everyone else knows, but that's really not the case. Tell me some things that you noticed about the check marks and some of the phrases. Did anything surprise you? Just tell me what you noticed about the different classes between poverty, middle class, and the wealthy. And we're just going to be open. This is very casual, and it's not going to take too much longer.
The wealthy seem like the whole world compared to middle class was area, compared to poverty was small little spot in the world.
And that's exactly the way that they think in those classes. The wealthy think internationally. They think, where am I going to go vacation in the whole world? They think how this affects the whole world. The middle class, we're right in the middle. We can relate to some wealthy people because some of them are our friends. We can relate to some of those that are in poverty because some of those might be our family. But our students in poverty, they think exactly like Mr. Howard said, small-minded. What am I going to do in the community? What else did you notice?
I noticed the significance of the word survival. And under poverty is really survival. Some of those items that were noted there, but under the middle class survival, I mean, if I can go to a restaurant and order or not, I'm okay. You know what I'm saying? So the significance of that word survival is very, very pertinent in each category.
Right. So a lot of our students that are in poverty, they feel like the only way they can survive is through physical aggression. I'm going to pass this out very quickly. These are some of the hidden rules of poverty, middle class, and also the wealthy. Can you take one and pass it around for me? My first year teaching, I was 22, teaching in Mobile County Training School. It's been so long. And I will never forget, it's been I'm going to tell you how old I am, well, about 11 years. So that's a long time for me. And so I remember asking one of my friends, and she was teaching at Chastain Middle School at the time. And I said, what do you think about me going to Mobile County Training? And she was like, well, this is going to be their first year going through transformation. I wouldn't go. I was like, oh my goodness. But they were the first one that offered me a job. And I don't have an education background. I was pre-med, and so that didn't work out. So I said, well, I'm just going to teach. So ended up loving it, but all of the kids were black. So I'm like, this will be no problem. I'm black. They're all black. I mean, what could be the issue? What could be the problem? First day of school, I did not know that the classes were separated by gender. My smallest class size was 38. Largest was 44, and so the first class was about 40 boys. The next class is about 36 girls. It was ridiculous. And we had nothing in common. Nothing. And I remember talking on the phone to my parents. I was like, this is not going to work out. These are different types of black people. No, I'm serious. That's what I said. I thought that because we were the same culture that we would think alike, I could relate to them, but I couldn't. I couldn't relate to them. And it wasn't until I read this book by Dr. Ruby Payne, Understanding Poverty, that I realized that these students were living in poverty. And the way that I reacted to them is going to have to be something that I've never done in my life. I could not relate to how you solve things by physical aggression. Why can't we talk things out? How do you not know where the mall is? So this was very interesting to me. So if you look at the sheet that we have at some of the hidden rules, one of the teachers told me, she said, sweetheart, she said, you are not going to get those children to test for you if they don't like you. I was like, what? They have to like me to pass my test? I thought that was crazy. But that's exactly what it was. Until I started to build relationships with them, that's when they started to trust me enough to do what I asked them to do. And that's where I think we have a disconnect at Murphy. And we're going to talk about some of the data and some of the things that are going on. Anybody want to add or comment or say anything before I move on?
I kind of experienced that when I taught at TLC. I had kids to ask me, "You've never been to jail?" I mean, really? You've never been to jail? And no, and that was amazing to them that I've never been to jail. And it's just like, what kind of world they live in to be to the point where they've all either been to Metro, or they've been to the youth center, or they've been to something like that. And to be able to build a rapport with these kids in order to teach them. Because like you say, you have to build a rapport with them. They have to, like you say, kind of like you in a sense, or know that you have their best interests at heart in order to really get to them, to really teach them.
Right.
I remember saying the statement, "I don't care about y'all, I'm getting my paycheck," when I first started teaching, and
Wow.
figured out that's not the way to do it.
Right.
Figured out quickly.
And if you look at some of the hidden rules, and I gotta tell you, this is my first year teaching AP. So guess what? I had some wealthy kids in my class. So I had to learn some of their hidden rules. Okay? I thought I was doing something when I showed one of my students some coins that I had from Jamaica. And she was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I went when I was 12. I was like, okay. I went when I was 12. So yeah, I have plenty of that. I was like, okay. You know, so as educators, we need to be familiar with all of the hidden rules because it could really make the difference in a lot of these students' lives, especially those that are in poverty. And we're going to talk more about how poverty is across all races, not just African American. I'm just telling you my personal stories. So let's move on. This is a diversity plan. This is my class, Diversity in Education. I collaborated with 3 other people from my class, and the data comes from Charles R. Drew Middle School in Talladega. Anyone know what that is? Anybody familiar with that area? Can you kind of give us a little where it is in the state?
It's around Birmingham.
Okay.
It's got a good barbecue place.
Okay, of course, we're very familiar with Murphy. So what is diversity? I'm not going to go like so. Diversity is basically just, I like to think of the word respect when we say diversity. Murphy is different to me. I don't consider us very diverse yet because there's not a good respect between the race, the cultures, the genders, sexual orientation, and religion across the board. Some of you all may disagree, and if you do or you have anything to say, just raise your hand and I'll address you. The second bullet is what I like the most, is that being a teacher comes together with a wider job description than merely passing knowledge on to students. What is the job description of a teacher? We could go on and on. Parent, babysitter at sometimes, educator, counselor, role model, nurse. So when we talk about diversity, we have to keep in mind that we have students from different cultures and backgrounds, and we don't want to offend them. I've interviewed some people from the faculty and staff that are different cultures than me, and they say, you know, in my culture, I'm not supposed to look you directly in your eye, but I'm Americanized and now I can do it. When my mother hands me something, she can never put it directly in my hand. She has to lay it on the table first and I pick it up. Isn't it interesting to know that we have people on this faculty and staff that have different rules about their culture that we may know nothing about, but it will help us to teach our children a lot better. So what is poverty? We know when we say poverty, we automatically think money, finances. They don't have enough money. And a lot of times people, as educators, we think, and they don't have the knowledge. Or we might think they don't have the cognitive skills. That's the ability to process the information. But these are all of the resources that involve poverty. It's where an individual lacks these: finances, emotional. That means they don't have the skills to deal with the situation without being self-destructive or aggressive towards someone else. Mental. Again, they lack those cognitive skills. They don't have spiritual resources to believe that there is something bigger than them in the universe, whatever their religion might be, and some of them don't even have a religion. Physical. Are they healthy? Support systems. Do they have parents? Who do they live with? Who do they go to for help? Do they have relationships? Do they have positive relationships? And do they have role models at school and at home? And then finally, do they know the hidden rules? Most of our students here, they do, but they only know the hidden rules for the class that they are in. I want to go over this quickly. And this is a scenario, and I want to test you. I want to see if you can, that's what's wrong from Ms. Parker, identify resources when you see them. So it says scenario number 1, John and Adele. Then I'll wait, make sure that everyone has one before we move on. Can I get a volunteer to read the background?
I'll read
Okay, thanks, Ms. Curley.
for scenario number 1.
Yes.
John is an 8-year-old Caucasian boy. His father is a doctor and remarried, but does not see his children. He pays minimal child support. The mother, Adele, works part-time and is an alcoholic. One younger sibling, a girl who is mentally and physically handicapped, lives with the mother and John. You are Adele, John's mother. You are a 29-year-old female. You quit college your sophomore year so that you could go to work to support John's father as he went through medical school. You were both elated when John was born. During the time your husband was an intern, you found that a drink or 2 or 3 in the evening calmed you down, especially since your husband was gone so much. When your second child was born, she was severely handicapped. Both of you were in shock. A year later, your husband finished his residency, announced that he was in love with another woman, and divorced you. Last you heard, your husband is driving a Porsche, and he and his new wife spent their most recent vacation in Cancun. Your parents are dead. You have a sister who lives 50 miles away. Your weekly income, including child support, is $300 before taxes. Your handicapped child is 3 years old and is in daycare provided by the school district.
Can I get someone to read the current situation?
I'll read it.
Thank you.
You have been late to work for the 3rd time this month. Your car broke down and it will take $400 to fix it. Your boss told you that you will be docked a day's pay, and that if you're late again, you will be fired. You don't know how you're going to get to work tomorrow. You consider several choices. Number 1, you can go car shopping. Number 2, you can put the car in the garage and worry about the money later. Number 3, you can invite the mechanic over for dinner. Number 4, you can get mad and quit. Number 5, you can call your ex and threaten to take him back to court unless he pays for the car. Number 6, you can get a second job. Or number 7, you can get drunk. Your daughter has had another seizure, and you took her to the doctor. One of the reasons you were late for work. The new medicine will cost you $45 every month. John comes home from school and announces that the school is going to have a reading contest. Every book you read with him will earn points for him. Each book is 1 point, and he wants to earn 100 points. You must do physical therapy with your daughter each evening for 30 minutes, as well as get dinner. For John to get his books, he needs you to go to the library with him. You have only enough gas to go to work and back for the rest of the week, and maybe not that. He also tells you that the school is having an open house, and he will get a pencil if you come. But John is not old enough to watch your daughter. Your ex has already threatened to bring up in court that you are an unfit mother if you try to get more money from him. The mechanic calls and invites you out to dinner. He tells you that you might be able to work something out in terms of payment. It has been a long time since you've been out, and he is good looking and seems like a nice man. What are Adele and John's resources? Check yes by the resources that are present. Check no by the ones that are not. Or check question mark where the resources are uncertain.
So, do you think they have financial resources? Yes or no? No, they don't. They don't have the financial resources. What about emotional? No. No. Mental? Actually, yes, they do have the mental resources. There is something that's called situational poverty. Generational poverty is when, it's going on for generations passed down, but situational poverty is usually caused by something that's happened, like a death in the family or a divorce. And most of the time, these people are trying to figure out how to move from middle class to poverty. Spiritual? Any evidence of that? No. Physical? Do they have their physical health? It seems like they're...
John and Adele.
Right.
Maybe.
Right. They must have some type of physical health because the daughter that is handicapped, she's taken to the doctor. Do they have support systems? Right, I guess school, but actually they don't have many support systems. He does.
Not in a good way.
Pseudo, but.
He wants to be one. Do they have knowledge of middle class hidden rules? They do. They do. What about role models? Do we know that he has any role models? Any of them? Any? So we put a question mark there. And those are the answers that came directly from the book.
John, maybe his teacher, because he's wanting to do 100 books.
Right.
He's very involved in school.
It is. And it just breaks my heart to read that the child just wants to go and get his pencil and be recognized. And his mother, she's doing the best that she can right now. Look at the hidden rules for poverty. I thought this was funny. Think about the students here at Murphy that are struggling. Think about those students that are at risk. Think about those students who are always sagging their pants. Think about those students that seem to have a disrespect for authority. Think about those students who get on your last nerves and you want to put them out and you're tired of them and you want to give up on them. I mean, that's just the reality of it. But if you look at these hidden rules, it makes so much sense. Look at their possessions. Their possessions are what? People. That's why you said, what about my mama? What did you say about my grandmother? Because those are their possessions. Money is to be what? Used, spent. I heard Mr. Howard talking to a student earlier about interest on a car. Some of them have no idea what interest is. Money is to be used, it's to be spent, it's not to be invested. What about their personality? For entertainment, sense of humor. I'm so tired of you janking in my class. Why? Because for their personality, they use it for entertainment. It's kind of like all they have is their personality for entertainment. Social emphasis. That's why they have so many cliques. Because it's all about who they like and who they dislike. Food. The key question there is always, did you get enough? Not, did you eat your fruits and your vegetables? And a lot of us that have family members that are in poverty, we can relate to this. Because it's always, did you get enough to eat? Go get some more. That's poverty. Clothing, value for individual style, expression of personality. We know about that. Time. Sad to say, they're late. No sense of time. Some of us may come from situational poverty. There are some of us that work here that may be trying to transition out of generational poverty into middle class and seem like for some reason we just cannot make it here on time. That's poverty. Education is valued in poverty, but it's kind of like abstract. Parents kind of feel like, that really can't happen. Like you really can't get a college degree. You really can't go to college and be a doctor. Destiny, believes in fate. Language. Casual register. What's up? What's going on? You know, they couldn't talk in formal register if they wanted to. That's why they can't write in formal register. Family structure tends to be matriarchal because they're in single parent homes. The mother is the be-all. She lays down the law and that's all there is to it. Or grandmother. Worldview, again, local setting. Love. Acceptance is conditional based upon, again, whether it's like driving forces are survival, relationships, and entertainment. That is why when we teach these kids that are in poverty, and you know you have a class where most of the class eats on free or reduced lunch, You must engage them. I'm sorry. We got to entertain them. And it's so sad that we have to do that. It's Miss Harper's always, why do I see Miss Harper rapping down the hallway? She entertains them, lures them in, and they feel like she's not a threat. Relationships, building relationships with them is what helps. Humor is about people and sex. And you can look at this later, and you can compare and contrast this between the middle class and the wealthy, because middle class, that makes sense. This is us. Tends to be patriarchal, of course. Most of us, mother, father. Father is the breadwinner. He's a provider. Our driving forces are work and achievement. Our possessions are things, like our house. Our money is managed. Our time, we think about the future. Our language, most of the time, is formal register. And then those people in wealth, this is a good thing to keep on you when you have a parent conference. If you know that that parent is coming from poverty, you want to say things like, I want your child to win, instead of I want them to succeed. You got to try to think on their level. And then middle class, that's easy. We're pretty much all middle class. But wealthy, you better bring out the big words. Do your work. You want to impress them. This is only if you want to build good relationships out. If you don't worry about it. But yes.
I asked the kids this. I said, which teachers can y'all go to and talk to? Just talk. You know, just like we are right now. There's only a handful. Most of them are quick to snap without actually listening. I see it all the time. I just have to go and I actually take the kid to the side later and say, you know, you got to know that not all of us are like that. You can't look at everybody like that.
This can be a hard thing for us as educators to do, especially when you are so accustomed to doing. I'm a disciplinarian. Okay, if I say do something, do it or get out of my face. It's just as simple as that. But you have to do it in a way in love and caring, disciplining, and not punishing. That's a totally different subject. But the culture of Murphy is changing. We all know that. The demographics are changing. So we as teachers, we've got to change. It's a hard thing to do. But if we're going to be successful, that's what we're going to have to do. It is what it is. I'm going to go through this very quickly. This is just some ARP data for Charles Drew Middle School. Of course, there's always been a big achievement gap between white students and black students. And this just shows the ARP reading data. Look at the big gaps, especially from 2012 to 13. Same thing in math. There's a bigger gap in math. I wonder why. I mean, I know why there's a big gap in reading, because we just talked about how they talk in the casual register. They're not going to write or think or read in it.
I saw a thing about when you grow up, how many words you hear in your household. It's like 700 or something from poverty up to 1,500 up to 2,400 in high class.
I was wondering maybe with math is because a lot of times in poverty there's not an accumulation of anything. You don't accumulate, so you don't, numbers are not part of your, you know, it's all sort of just comes and goes so easily that you don't really think in terms of numbers.
And then they use this excuse, well, I'm not good in math, and grandma wasn't good in math. I mean, but you can overcome any situation if there's desire. And then math, I think, you know, so many people don't understand, you know, I think as a whole, the math part probably got the worst reputation, you know, that we just fail people just for the sake of, the math is so foundational. I have kids that are sitting in my geometry class this year that don't know their multiplication tables. So, my God, how can I help them master geometry when they don't even have the foundation? I gave a test on the geometric solids. This little girl didn't know the difference between a circle and a quadrilateral. You learn that in K4. I mean, it's just mind-boggling. Well, obviously she didn't. You know, obviously she didn't. And then too, the reading, you know, it comprehends, you know, you got to comprehend and understand what you're reading. I gave them a reference sheet. And 4 years ago when I taught this class, I made the kids learn that formulas. The grades were so much better. they used the wrong formula. They didn't understand the difference between a prism and a pyramid when they read it. It's so mind-boggling. I mean, unless you're in math, people do not understand the battles that we're facing. It's unreal. I mean, you'd be surprised at the stuff that these kids don't know. I mean, it's so disheartening that a lot of the parents have allowed their kids to get in the situations that they're in. You throw in a fraction, I mean, it's a wrap. You know, and I had a little girl that didn't know 2 times 8 was 16. And she said, well, I never learned my timetables. You are 16 years old and you're not embarrassed to tell somebody that you didn't learn your timetables. When we were growing up, no shame at all.
But
Yeah.
yeah.
You know, when we were learning our multiplication tables, the mom would be in the kitchen cooking. You know,
But they don't have that. That's what this whole.
I know
Yeah,
this.
that's
I mean, but
something.
it's so disheartening. You know, people think you just don't care, but you're doing these kids a disservice by passing them on. It's almost like you're setting them up to fail in the next class. You know, math is foundation. You've got to get a foundation.
Can I ask the question with Howard? Can I use you for an example? And you can just tell, because you have to, we measure the growth, right? And you know the situation that we had with a particular student. And if someone would look at that child, she would say, well, she's still bad, right? And you know what we're talking about. But with us, I had to go to him and several other teachers to work with me. I had to tell him my story to help this particular girl. She's never been suspended since we've been working together. Now, she may not be a scholar, but she's not suspended. That's growth. Just to keep her here. She's never been in an administrator office. Now, it took some leg work with he and I, and another teacher was very helpful with that. What was your secret? I mean, what did you do that was different? And she's a part of all of this, and what you're saying too, that poverty. What was the secret?
In that particular class, it was an Algebra 1B. It was third block all year long. I knew I was going to have some dumb kids in there. So what I did was, you talking about the janking and stuff, you can't do that, especially in a class like that. If you allow that, half the other kids are going to shut their mouth and never open their mouth, and you're not going to get it. Well, in that class, you were able to talk. Everybody was able to open their mouth and say whatever they wanted to say. And because of that, nobody really felt threatened in there. So you could say that I didn't know it. You didn't feel bad that I went to the board and didn't know how to do it. Somebody else would go up there and help you. They would maybe jank on you real quick, but then I'd say, hey, okay, I'll help her. You know, they'd go up there and help her. That was my main thing, though, is building that relationship to say that, hey, you can say that you don't know this. You have to be able to ask somebody.
So, if one of us saw this particular, and she's not even mine anymore. This particular girl is just one that she won't go to another country. I've been with her. She should be a junior. And that happens. You can't always stay in your grade level as a counselor.
Her support system is there, but after that, there's nobody for her to attach to stay with, to see that, hey, there is another level.
Exactly.
She was always with the lower level kids, and she was around when they were getting in trouble.
But when
she really wasn't the one, doing it.
But when she was a freshman, she was suspended all the time. She has not been suspended these last 2 years. So, but if you saw her, she still looked thuggish. Gold teeth are still there. All the stuff. You would say, oh, there she is again. But he and I know there's been growth there. So that's what we're talking about.
I praise her on it.
Yeah.
I make sure I tell her that, hey.
And that's a lot of hard work. That's a lot of hard work.
Even when she's not doing the work, I still praise her for something. Because it's not what it used to be.
Dr. Smith was supposed to be here. When I went down, he was on his way up. I guess he got caught up. I really wanted him to be here to understand that I was hoping we would get to this point. When I hear teachers like Ms. Okoya and Mr. Howard, and when I hear you all speak, a lot of people may think, especially when Ms. Okoya talks, that it might be hard on the kids, but in her voice, I hear desperation. I hear concern, I hear love, I hear caring. Someone else might take it as something else. There must be not only relationships built between us and the students, but the administrators and the faculty and the staff. Do you know me? Do you know how many kids I have? Do you know where I live, how far I have to come to work? Do you know if I even like to teach? Do you know if I like kids? I mean, what do you know about me? Mr. Allen, of course, knows about me because Freshman Academy is a learning community. But outside of that, and I wonder if the administrators know you. If they knew, I mean, I haven't been in Ms. Obukoye's class, but I've heard that they're always on task. They're always working. They're always doing something. So we need to find what do we need to do to make this easier for the students to learn, because it's always about them. Let me hurry. I did not mean to keep you all this long. This is on Murphy data, and I just went for English because that's a major thing, is our language of communication. Okay? Our students in poverty, they're not going to do well in a job interview because they can't talk in the formal register. Okay? So that's why I looked at English, and there's always a big gap between free and reduced meals and paid meals. Now this first line is going to be free, then this is paid. So that's free, reduced, paid, free, reduced, paid, free, reduced, paid, free, reduced, paid. And then you have white students and then black students. But just to give you a gist of it, we know that there's a big gap. So in our class, we have to come up with a diversity plan. We have to come up with a way that we can respect each other's cultures, each other's socioeconomic backgrounds, build relationships so that we can increase test scores and close that gap. I'm going to stop here. I'm not going to go over everything, but we do have a diversity plan. We have expected outcomes, which include, of course, raising our test scores. Right now, we just have EQT and EOCs, ACT as well, but no more grad exam. We've got to have goals for celebrating diversity and also activities for celebrating diversity. So basically, that's it. But I thank you all so much for listening. Murphy is a jewel. We are a jewel. Talking to some of my other classmates, we can teach anywhere in the state. Our students are so diverse. We have almost every race represented that's here in the state. Poverty, middle class, wealthy. We have so many opportunities for learning. This school should be so much better. And one day I hope that I'm able to be at a school like Murphy where I can lead and where I can make it a lot better based on the foundation of building those relationships. Whether you like them or like students or not. I can fake it. Sorry, but I can't. Okay, so that's it. Thank you
so much.